Welcome to our webinar today on managing your personal energy with art. Those of you who are listening, this is the Inspiring Mummy Club podcast, and you are listening on a replay of our live webinar. And for those of you who are our listeners, you'll know that Inspiring Mummy Club is all about uplifting, inspiring and motivating mums out there to get out and make life happen. Just because you're a mum doesn't mean that you have to stay feeling stuck. And all of the interviews that we do in the podcast and all of the materials we have in our award-winning membership for Inspiring Mummy Club are there to help you get yourself into gear and start doing things that you're passionate about. And the topic that's coming up for Inspiring Mummy Club for August is managing energy and art. And I'm very pleased today to introduce to you our special guest, Elizabeth Tuckwell, who has come in as our featured expert this month. Elizabeth is an artist and a healer. And I'm going to let Elizabeth tell you a little bit more about what she does as we go on through this interview. So hello, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Hello.
Hi. So it would be great if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and what your family setup is.
Okay, I am Elizabeth Tuckwell. I am an artist. I'm a fine artist. So this is one of my paintings. And I'm also an energy healer. And I am a mom to an amazing and incredible 7-year-old girl who is always keeping me on my toes. And I've also been someone that's dealt a lot with anxiety and overwhelm. So I've paired the art and the energy work to really open some navigation back to my own energy through the two.
And so how old are your children? How old did you say?
I've got one daughter. She's 7.
She's 7. Okay. So we both are managing to record this webinar around children today. So that could be a lot of fun, shall we say? So Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about your background in art and how that led into you doing healing work with other people.
Art actually found me. It's so funny that I am an artist because the art was the last thing I ever thought about doing. I mean, of course, when I was a little girl, very small child, I drew a lot and I wrote stories and I thought I'd be a writer. But life happens and I never really visited that again until I was in college, in my last semester at college when I had to take an elective. And I thought, well, whatever, I haven't taken an art class, so I'll just take this art class. Not thinking that it had any significance at all in my life. But my life up to that point had been very chaotic. And so I had a very busy mind. Thoughts were running incessantly. I was always living in the future or living in the past and always worried about things. When I took this art class, it was the very first time in my entire life, up until that point, that my mind was quiet. I didn't even know it was possible. I didn't even know there was a zone of focus that was even there for me. And I was working with metalsmithing, actually. So I was building these, creating these really small pieces of jewelry, fine jewelry. And they were really beautiful. I was working with silver and I was working with copper and I was working with these really tiny instruments. So I had to be fully present. Mm-hmm. And I was fully present. And it was that moment where I realized that even the present moment existed. Mm-hmm. When that class ended, it sort of, I kept looking for that. So I kept chasing that feeling, and then I found it in photography, and then developing my own photos in the darkroom, right? So that full presence, like the awe moments of seeing your work show up on paper. And then somehow, which is kind of a funny story, I ended up finding painting. And I didn't really explore painting until I left the States to travel by myself. And this was before phones. So this was before you could just be comfortable behind a screen. I had to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So in these moments where I was like, in a surrounding of total strangers in a setting I didn't understand, I had my art, and my art became like a friend, and it was able to quell my worries and quell my anxiety and put me back into present moment and present and put me back into focus. And it also really helped me to process what was going on around me. Life led on to life, and some big events happened, and they forced me to dig even deeper into my own energy and facing the negative thoughts head on. For some reason, I was never even introduced to proper therapy or any type of medication. So those were never options for me. So when I was going through crazy depressions or worry or anxiety, I turned to art. And it always put me back in the zone of present moment. And then answers would just show up. I could wrestle things to the ground in my mind with worry, but I would never get anywhere. But when I stopped and I started creating art, then solutions, there was space made for solutions to show up. And my intuition began to grow, and my energy relationship with myself began to grow.
We talk quite a lot in Inspiring Mummy Club about mindful activity and how just doing something, anything that's creative, even if you're not looking at what the output is, just the fact that you're having that pause, having that focus, having that moment can actually, let everything else sort of drop away, because this is where you are and this is what you're doing. So I think that's a little bit about what you're talking about, except with what you've created for Inspiring Mummy Club this month goes a little bit further and really explores that. What I'm really interested in, Elizabeth, is what your concept is about your own energy and personal energy, what that is in the first place, so that we can then talk about how you protect it, how you manage that. What actually does that mean to you?
Well, I think a little backstory is that when I started moving more along this path of working with art to get back into focus and presencing, I realized that a lot of the anxiety and the overwhelm I was carrying was not my own energy. And that I felt really out of my comfort zone when I was out of my own space. And so what that translates to is carrying too much of other people's energy, holding on to too many experiences, giving my energy out and out and out, often like a mother does. Just gives it out and gives it out with no recharge and no grounding to release the energy, lost in a field of other energy. And so it would be the same as if you go to a party and someone says, "Hold my glass," right? And then they never come back. And that glass is someone else's energy. Well, if that party lasts for 20 years, you're holding on to so much energy, you don't really have space for your own self. So realizing that my energy was needing to be protected, and when I was out of it was when I felt most overwhelmed and most in anxiety. And I started taking these classes at a psychic school in Chicago. And when we started learning healing modalities, we really started to strip away and learn grounding to strip away the energy of others. And it was when you really feel back in touch with your own energy, you realize how precious that is. And that when you're off that dial of joy, you're out of your own energy. You're out of your own space. So art, so sorry, go ahead.
I think it's a really common thing, isn't it? That we go through our day, we feel quite drained by the activities happening around us. Sometimes particular people can be really draining. And what do you do if you're not taking time to recharge? I really like that analogy that you used. What happens is that you feel more and more depleted, and that can affect all of your life, can't it? And lead to so much overwhelm.
Absolutely. And then you don't even remember how you felt when you were charged up fully.
Because it's been so long since you have been. Yeah.
And you get really comfortable wearing the skin of all these other people's energy or all your activities. You get really comfortable in giving away your energy and not preserving it. So it doesn't become second nature to have a regular recharge practice.
Yeah. So what kind of things then do you use regularly for yourself to recharge? And when would you know that that's something you had to put in place?
Well, it's funny that I've been doing this for so long, but still I veer off course. So
yeah, because we're human. Doesn't matter how much this stuff you understand. We're all human.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all charged up, and then I go outside, and then there's a whole world of sirens and ambulances and requests and email notifications, and I'm like, whoa, where am I all of a sudden? And then I've got mom. in the background. And so it's really easy to forget this. So I like to take time in the morning, right before my daughter wakes up, and really set the foundation for protecting my own energy by doing some writing, doing some connecting with my own heart for some meditation work, and also painting. Taking a few minutes in the morning and going to my canvas and just that quiet time, it sets up my personal energy foundation for the day. And when you've started your day with your own energy structure, and it's yours before you've checked your notifications, before you've looked at your phone, you've just gone into your own energy system, then you can build your day on that instead of the foundation of all the other people and of the other people's energy around you.
The whole thing about mobile phone usage first thing in the morning, really interesting point. And because not even just from an energy point, but also from what it's doing to your mind and psychologically, that you are putting everybody else's demands on you before you've even properly woken up, maybe before you've greeted your partner or your children, or even just had a few minutes to breathe. So there's something we talk about a lot at Inspiring Mummy Club. And so I know that you work one-on-one with people and in classes, and what kind of things do you see other people kind of coming through as a result of working with art in order to channel their own energy?
Well, after I work with someone, we go through a process where we ground their energy and then we talk. So we've stripped away a lot of the residual energy they were holding on to, and they can come to the dialogue in a zone of clarity. And then we move into a psychic landscape where I look at their energy. After that, we've moved so much energy that I feel like it's really important for them to maintain that trajectory, and giving them an art assignment really helps them to further anchor in the changes and the transformations that have happened in that session. Because it's really easy to have an appointment and have a great meeting with someone and move a lot of energy and then just jump back into your everyday. And those everyday habits mean everyday thoughts, and everyday thoughts equal everyday responses. So the art helps people move out on the other side, take an exit from their everyday route. And it also helps them move out of just the normal neural circuits and into a zone that's not always used when we're constantly trying to figure things out, but really available for processing. So when we've moved so much energy in the session, and then I have them, I give individual art assignments based on whatever we've talked about in the session, that really furthers in that homework. That homework really furthers in that energy. And it's also given them more ownership, because when you're approaching a coach and you want to share your story, you are in ownership, but you're doing it with someone. So then to be able to have the tools to do it on your own gives you more empowerment.
And are people often surprised by the type of art that they create as a result of a session where they've maybe felt that they've released something for themselves?
Some people are surprised that they can even create art. I hear so often, I didn't even think I was creative. And I personally think every single person is creative.
I think a lot of that comes down to how you were at school as well. I mean, if you weren't one of the arty types and you weren't encouraged to be creative, to paint, to draw, because that wasn't your natural skill, it's very easy to think, well, that's not for me. And then you leave school and perhaps you never do any artwork again. And that's something I come across a lot, not just in artwork, but any level of creativity. Once people have left school and they're left to their own devices, it just doesn't happen. And I think more and more as mums as well, very often, no matter how artistic or creative someone is, when they have children, when they have their first baby, a lot of things go out of the window, even if it's a real passion or a talent of theirs. Yeah. That's something you come across a lot. You're nodding ferociously, Elizabeth.
Well, yeah, because I think it's ultimately you're just in this enormous sense of selflessness. And you're in this overwhelming responsibility that you've had no preparation for at all. So you are all in, and it's really easy to lose yourself in that process. And so many people come and say, like, I don't even know what I want. I don't know where I'm going. I've forgotten all of my desires, basically, or how to tap back into them.
Or whether those desires are even the same anymore.
Truly.
Because they do change and grow as we become parents.
So much. At least I hope so. I try. And you're right about the school, because and even when I'm a self-taught artist. So it took me a while before I allowed myself to say I was an artist,
Mhm.
because it's really compartmentalized into, yes, this is what an artist looks like, this is what an artist does. But I'm not talking about an artist, I'm talking about a creator. And we're all creators. We're creating our everyday, every choice is a creation. So I want people to realize how much of the creative juices they have flowing in them. And that's what my whole motivation is, to connect them again with their muse, with their creative powers. So when I give these assignments, when I work with people, I give them very bite-sized, easy to access art assignments. I'm not asking them to paint a portrait.
We're not looking for Picasso.
No.
Not straight away.
Not straight away.
So let's talk a little bit about when other people drain your energy, or when you feel drained by somebody or a situation. What would you advise someone to do in that circumstance?
Well, I think forewarned is forearmed. I think having an awareness of what you feel like when you feel good is a very important tool to have. And really knowing and owning that helps you navigate when your compass is off, right? So when you've moved into a situation and all of a sudden you're feeling constricted or uncomfortable or angry and you don't know why, you can realize the energy is not my own. I'm not in a place that's beneficial or harmonious to my own energy. So knowing what it feels like to feel good is really important, so that you can recognize when you're out of alignment. And when you're out of alignment, because otherwise you're just going crazy and thinking that that's you. So recognizing when you're out of alignment, then shifting your energy and grounding it, finding a way to ground your energy, which can be done in a split second with intention. As we don't all have the ability to, take a moment out of a family reunion and go make some art. I'll be right back. I'm just going to paint a quick painting. But being able to ground your energy, or taking a second out and just breathing, taking 6 deep breaths and getting into a zone where you're realigning and reconnecting yourself.
So is that one of your favorite ways to ground yourself? So take a breath. Tell me about other ways you might ground yourself.
Well, when I lead meditations, I use the symbol of an anchor. Mm-hmm. And this is an anchor comes, I have my participants imagine that an anchor is actually descending from their own body space, right? And that as it descends, it's this grounding and rooting into the earth. And as it does, it intelligently attracts all the energy that you're carrying that you no longer need. And it's a symbol I use over and over and over in my meditations. And that anchor just intelligently and intuitively pulls out what is not serving you at that moment. So if you're in a crowded space, you're in a situation that feels uncomfortable, you can find some time to separate yourself from the crowd and just imagine an anchor descending from you and pulling out everything you don't need, and then allowing an energy of intention to come and enter you. That is an energy that you are creating for yourself. And that energy most often is more of your own energy. So it's getting you out of segmentation and bringing you back into more alignment, and then creating a bubble of energy around you. So
I love that thought of a bubble of energy around you. I like to think of it as something that's protective. So if you're going into a room, perhaps, or interesting you mentioned family occasions, if you're going into a room where maybe things aren't as amicable as you would like, and maybe people aren't necessarily on your team, even if they are close to you, having that idea of a bubble of protection can be an absolute lifesaver. Other things that I use is mindful breathing. That is something you can even do in the room with nobody knowing. You can have your eyes open while you do it, or you can nip out for a minute, literally take 60 seconds to breathe, and kind of notice that then your thoughts and worries and concerns are actually just thoughts, worries and concerns. You're right here, you're coping in this moment, and it's all okay. Another thing that I use is balance oil. It's a blend of essential oils, doTERRA essential oils, which are amazing. You can just put them on your I keep saying they're my temples, but my temple is here. You put them on your temples or on your wrists, and just a quick dot, either with fractionated coconut oil. It's a great roll-on one that doTERRA do, and that just, not just the smell of it, the sort of olfactory effect of the scent, but also as it goes into your bloodstream, it can just ground you, just bring you back into yourself. And I find those really, really great techniques. So, okay, so tell me what changes you've seen in people as a result of working with them, particularly if you've had any mothers that you've worked with.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, gosh, you know, I worked with a woman recently, and the first time I worked with her, her sentence, the way that she described herself was, I feel like a zombie, the way that she was moving through her life. And through the grounding and the intuitive dialogue and then an art exercise that I gave her, and then the continuation of her owning her own energy. I spoke with her last week and she said, I feel more alive than I have felt in so long. And she hadn't necessarily achieved any of the goals that she thought would make her life better when we first spoke. Mm-hmm. But what she had achieved was a new personal relationship with herself, which is really the zone of empowerment.
Mm. So it's a type of connectivity, isn't it, to yourself?
That's it. That's you know, that's everything. That relationship that you're building with yourself and honoring your own energy and honoring your own space is everything. Because that's who you are ultimately when you enter that room. You know, is she owning her own space? Is she owning her, or can I get in and can I rent it? You know? And so that was, I'm just really honored, and I want to take credit, but really I'm just introducing people to tools that they can use every day to create their own systems of self-empowerment and reconnection. Mm-hmm. And I've worked with people over a long period of time who have looked for what they're good at and looked for the thing that they're supposed to do. And it's been really about that reconnection with themselves, grounding their energy, getting that verbiage out, talking things out intuitively, and using art to connect, to focus, to process, to get rid of all that other stuff so that you can actually...
All the
noise, right? So art is like the headphones to the world, and you can really start listening to your own sound.
I love that. What a great soundbite that is.
I like that.
Art is the headphones of the world, so you can start listening to your own sound. That's amazing. Oh my goodness, Elizabeth, quite a quote there. Fabulous. So, and in your own life, tell us a little bit about how you use art. When do you decide to use it? How much is it a part of your life now, you know, as a mum, as a busy mum?
Oh man, it's so important. You know, it's so important, and yet I still get caught up on the highway of mom. And you know, and I it's always there. It's always available. Although one thing that I've made sure I think the worst thing I could possibly do is to put away the art supplies, like have a massive cleanup and put things away. So I've made sure that they're always there. I've always got my easel out. I've always got a canvas that I'm working on. I've always got my paints at arm's reach. And if they're not taunting me, saying, come back, it's just so easy to jump on. And I think for me as a mom, one of my challenges is really feeling comfortable with separating myself from my daughter when I have time with her. Because I work so much, that I find that time with her is so precious. But sometimes I really need a break. You know, she'll be there and I'm like, okay, my energy is not fun right now. I really need a break. And it's about being okay with knowing that guilt is just such an illusion. It's like, there's nothing guilty about getting up and saying, mommy needs some time. You need to just do whatever you want to do. And being okay if she ends up watching a show. It's okay. Mommy needs to paint. You know, and inevitably what happens is that energy leads to a bigger fulfillment of a relationship because she's watching me own my own energy, which is directly empowering her, right? That's the truth behind it all. And then she'll come over and then we'll paint together. And it's this wonderful moment that arrived that would have never showed up if I didn't choose myself. And so for me, that's art. And that's, you know, I'm feeling out of sorts. I can be next to her, but I'll be horrible.
I think
Or
that I love what you said, Elizabeth. We talked quite a lot about recently. We've talked a lot about fitness and exercise and how actually doing that around the kids is really empowering. What I love is that concept of don't over tidy your things at home, because the things that are you and that are the creative part of you, your children need to see them. They need to have them in the house so that you can access them whenever you want to. Not because it's a big deal, not because you have to get everything out, but because they're just there and they're present and they're a part of your everyday life. And it's about saying that those things are important, whether that's having an area in your house that you go and sit to read, to have your favourite cup of coffee or whatever. Just having that space for yourself and your own things, albeit manageably and not, messy array everywhere, because there's a line, isn't there, I think.
yeah.
Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the monthly content that you've created for us. So Elizabeth, just talk briefly about what you've made in the inspiration pack for us.
Well, I wanted to give the Mummy Club an opportunity to connect with their own energy and use tools to understand when their compass was off joy. Like I view joy as my North Star. So when I'm off of that, I know I've got to get reconnected. So in the inspiration pack, I have created an opportunity for people to think about moments that brought them joy. When were they at that time that felt good? So understanding that's my zone, that's my foundation, that's my yes, that's my go-to spot. And then thinking about times when they were steered left of it. That's actually left. Steered left of it. And why? So examining, what are my triggers? What are the things that bring me off balance? Forewarned is forearmed. Now knowing that this is how I felt when this happened, or when I was around this person, or maybe I just gave too much of myself to my family and didn't take enough for me. Viewing no situation as right or wrong, just in examining it from an energy standpoint. And then having tools at arm's length to set up a foundation for your energy for the day, setting up a way for you to release energy, and setting up a way for you to reconnect with your own self and your own energy. So foundational is setting your intentions for the day, starting off with writing, writing out 5 things. Today I intend to have a day of yes, to have a day of ease. You can get really specific. I'm going to go to my meeting and I'm going to own the day, just putting your energy spin on it. And with releasing, I've inserted a very super simple exercise, which you can do on a napkin at a restaurant if you need to. And that is a Scribble Scrabble exercise. And when I began workshops, I really started off with the Scribble Scrabble exercise because it helped people unwind, and it helped people just get out the knots. And that's simply moving your hand over your piece of paper and just drawing lines over and over to just move energy out. And then taking the spaces that are created between those lines, taking a few moments to fill them in. So you've released energy, now you're processing by focusing and spending time just filling in the colors, filling in the lines without thinking. It's a very simple, very win-win exercise. And ways to reconnect with your energy are, again, moving that even into coloring exercises, where you're refocusing and getting into a place where you're processing and starting to reimagine and allow solutions and thoughts and inspirations to show up. And also get out of the house and go to an art museum, go to an art show, like connect with inspiration. And if art's not your thing, go see music, go whatever it is, but connect with your zone of inspiration. And those are the
great advice.
Really, and I actually need to put it up daily as well, because again, we move into the highway of life and it's so easy to forget these things. So that is what is the essential nuggets of the inspiration pack.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's coming out August the 4th, I think it's August the 3rd, which is on the first Friday of the month, whilst I'll still on my holidays. So hopefully that'll come out nicely.
Yeah.
And it's quite different to some of the other things that we've had in the club previously, although with a similar kind of theme behind it. So I'm excited to see what people think of it. Also, of course, we have with it a hypnosis track, which is about protecting your energy from other people, specifically about how you protect yourself in situations and around people that are quite draining or potentially negative to your own self-esteem and how you protect yourself. Really powerful hypnosis there, and also a guided visualization, which is about imagining that bubble around you, how you can put yourself in that bubble of protection in order to enable and empower you to go into situations that are particularly difficult for you potentially. And then a meditation again, which is about your energy, which again, you know, they're fabulous tools and really good for kind of getting you to understand a little bit more about your own energy and how you're looking after yourself and what happens to you when you put yourself in situations that are difficult, because we all do, because that is part of life too. It's how we deal with them and cope with them and flourish as a result of them and what we learn from them. So just to wrap up, Elizabeth, could you just tell us, if someone was out there and they're listening to this interview and they're feeling really stuck, or, you know, like a zombie, as you talked somewhat about one of your clients, what would you advise them to do? What should they do next?
I would start having them connect with writing, actually. It's a very simple process. Set a timer and just write without a goal for about 3 minutes, just to get the energy moving, start the dialogue. Because when you're feeling zombie-like, you're feeling disconnected, extremely disconnected from yourself and your zone of inspiration. And that's a really great way to move energy. And I also have on my website a creative jumpstart, which I think is 5 really easy bite-sized assignments to move the energy and to have people reconnect with their own creative power and not feel overwhelmed that they're not an artist, but to do so in really bite-sized chunks.
We're going to make sure that wherever this goes out after this initial live, wherever this video or podcast is, you're going to be able to get a link to Elizabeth Tuckwell's website, which is Art with Intention, which has the creative jumpstart that she's talking about on it. We're also going to attach to wherever you found this some freebie gifts that Elizabeth has put together for Inspiring Mummy Club listeners, which is again full of all sorts of quite mindful art creative exercises that can help you harness your own energy and feel a bit more in alignment. So wherever this goes out, that is going to be there for you. So thank you so much for coming on today, Elizabeth. It's been really interesting, and I'm very excited to see how our members in the club at the moment, how they respond to the material that you've created for them. And that is it from us this week for Inspiring Mummy Club. Thank you so much for watching the webinar or listening to the podcast. We are doing a podcast every week. They release on a Wednesday, where each week we either take a topic and we will be discussing it in terms of self-development, or we'll have a featured guest expert, a mum who is out there running through the challenges of being a mum, but deciding to do something for herself anyway, because you only get one life, so let's start living it. That's it from me. Take care, and we will speak to you soon.